Hi everybody, it's Ricky from Connerty, Meadows Farm. So today we are going to do what's called a partial rebatch. And that means that we are taking a soap that didn't quite work out for whatever reason. Maybe your scent faded, maybe you didn't like the way it looked, maybe it's old and it's not selling, any number of reasons. And we are going to make it into new soap. Now what you do is we take the one kind of soap and we grate it up. And then we're gonna make another batch of soap and we're gonna add them together and make a new soap. This is not the same as making a confetti soap, and you'll see the reasoning why it's different as we go ahead and do the video. So let's get right to it. About a month ago, I had made some oatmeal, milk, and honey soaps. And when I was measuring, I wasn't very careful with my oatmeal, and a whole bunch dumped in when I was weighing it out. And I thought, oh, forget it. I'm just gonna throw it in and do it anyway. So I went ahead with it, and I did up the soap. And then I stamp it about 3 weeks. And when I went to stamp the soap, which had a nice little gel phase here, it was absolutely perfect. I noticed it wasn't stamping like it should. And in the gel, I could see that there was definitely some issues. So this is what's happening with my soap. You shouldn't be able to do that with soap. So it's obviously just oatmeal heavy. So what I'm going to do today is what's called the partial rebatch. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our soaps and we're just gonna grade them. If you've got another way of doing it besides by hand, by all means, do whatever you need to do. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and grade all of this down, and then once this is all graded down, I will take you to the next step. This is gonna take me quite a while to do by hand, and I'm pretty sure you don't wanna see me sitting here. Next thing we have to do is get ready to make a batch of soap. So essentially, we are making a fresh batch of soap. So I gotta measure out all of my oils and then heat them up. So that's step one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and measure some of them out. You can see what we're doing. So in this recipe, I have olive oil. And I'm gonna just move, once it's weighed out, I'm gonna move it into the pot I'll be heating it up into. To go in here, I'm gonna have olive oil, castor oil, coconut oil, and lard. And I'm just gonna go ahead, weigh everything into here, put it into here, and then I am going to heat my pot up on the stove. All right, so the last of my oils have been measured out and are going into the pot. And then the next step, as I said before, is we're just gonna pop this pot over to the stove, and we're gonna put it on low heat, and we're gonna let all these oils melt. The oils are all starting to melt down on the stove. I have it on like really, really low heat, barely even on, just on simmer. And then once these are all melted, we'll move on to the next step. Our oils that were on the stove are all melted. We have our soap that we're rebatching. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna put it in the crock pot, and you're gonna turn your crock pot on high. Well, normally when you do hot process soap, you wouldn't do it on high, but in this instance we are. And then we're going to pour our warmed up oils into the crock pot. Just the oils into the crock pot. Then we're gonna give this all a stir, and we're gonna mix it all together. We're gonna coat all of these pieces of soap with the oils that we just put in there. Then we are going to put the lid on and we are going to leave it for about 15 minutes. About 15 minutes have passed by, so let's have a look. So you can see it's starting to melt a little bit, and so we're just gonna give it another quick stir here. Mix everything back in, take it from the outside edges. You can see some of it's getting really cooked on the outside and not on the inside. So we're just gonna mix it all together and then put the lid on and come back in another 10-15 minutes. All right, we're just gonna do another check here and see how we're making out. You can see the pieces are getting smaller. It feels a lot softer. And so I am going to go ahead and stick blend. Now, the last time after checking it, I went ahead and I made up my lye water mixture. I actually use milk, so it's a lye milk mixture. But if you're regularly using lye water, obviously go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and stick blend this. Now you can see it's definitely more applesaucey and more mixed together. A little bit more fluid here. I am just going to cover it for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then I am going to finish up my milk lye mixture, and the next step will then be adding the milk lye mixture into the pot. So we have it very applesaucy looking, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my lye milk mixture to this mixture. Please pour very, very carefully. Now, normally I try to keep my lye milk mixture a lot whiter, but because I'm hot processing this anyway, I don't bother. All right, and then we are going to mix this in. So I'm just going to go slow mixing with this first, and then I will stick blend it. I just want to make sure that we're not going to have a big splatter with the lye to start. Okay. And now I'm also going to turn my crock pot down to low. Now from here on out, believe it or not, it will be very much like making hot process soap. So if you're familiar with hot process soap, we're gonna go through all the same. You're gonna look for your applesauce, you're gonna look for your Vaseline, you're gonna look for all those stages, and then once we're done, we'll mold her up. You can see that it's starting to cook on the outside edge here, just like it would with hot process. We're just gonna stir this up. And then we're just gonna let it sit for another 15 minutes. It's just been another few minutes. You can see it's cooking down pretty good there. If you have a super fat that you want to put in, now would be the time to do it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and unplug the crock pot and I'm gonna let it cool down a bit. And now if there's any scent that you wanna add, you would do that now, stir it in, and then we're gonna put it into the molds. I have some little molds here. I use these little guys for samples. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fill them first. I've got my little ones filled, and now I am just going to go ahead and fill the big ones, and then we're done. It's all in the molds. I'm going to cover these molds and let them gel because I want them to stay warm. So I'll put my lids on. The little guys are on the top, and that's it. We've got all of our soap in the molds, and now it's just cleanup. And that just means washing out our pot. And just to show you, there's a little bit of soap on there. Let's get a little bit of lather. Soaps have now set in the molds for 24 hours, and now we're ready to cut. So I thought maybe you'd like to come along for the last little bit. If you've enjoyed this movie, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is tighten our string. And take these guys out of the molds. One of the things I do is I like to keep all my scrap bits of soap. Let's get to it. Those are the little sample sized ones from the little green containers. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll see you next time.